Okay, this is Quiz 14 Study Guide.
When you're timesing or dividing something by like square root 2, how do you do that on calculator?
All right, number one, let's see. It says to find the length of the missing side. Number one is not a special right triangle. So it is just a right triangle, and one side is 7 and the other side's 10. So you're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem. This is your side A, B, and C. So 7 squared plus 10 squared equals C squared. 149 plus 100 equals C squared. So 149 equals C squared. If you find the square root of both sides, the square root of 149 that is in simplest radical form. Okay? So the square root of 149 is equal to C. The square root of 149 as an estimation is 12.21. So you could see either of these answers on your quiz tomorrow. They're both correct. You won't see both of them in the same problem, but you could see it either way. Got it? All right, number two is another Pythagorean Theorem problem. In this problem, though, you're trying to find the length of a leg. So you've got a 19 as the hypotenuse and 5 as a leg. So you're looking for the other leg, so your sides are A, B, and C. Pythagorean theorem would be 5 squared plus B squared equals 19 squared. So 25 plus B squared equals, that's 361. If you subtract 25 from each side, then B squared equals 336. And if you square root each side, you're going to have B equals 4 times the square root of 21, or 18.33. Those are both correct. That's what I get in the yellow calculator. So if this is an answer choice, and your answer choices are only in radical form, just take each one of your answer choices and multiply 4 times 21 square root and see what that equals. The next answer choice might be 3 times square root of 11. Okay, so you can convert your answer choices to decimals and then match them up. Number 3, a grid shows positions of a subway stop and your house. The subway stop is located at -4, -3. So you've got a coordinate plane, -4, -3. And your house is located at 7, 1. So 7 and 1. So this is the subway stop, and this is your house. The question is, what is the distance to the nearest unit between your house and the subway stop? So you're looking for the distance of this segment. Well, if you turn this into a right triangle by drawing in a horizontal and then drawing in a vertical, this is now a right triangle. This side down here, it goes from -4 to 7. So it is 11 units long. And this side, it goes from -3 to 1. So it's 4 units long. So now you can do the Pythagorean Theorem to find the distance from this subway stop to your house. So that would be 11 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. So 121 plus 16 equals c squared. 137 would equal c squared. And if you find the square root of both sides, you're going to get the square root of 137 equals c. And the square root of 137 is 11.7. So either of those are correct. Number 4 says that a triangle has sides of 16, 63, and 65. The question is it a right triangle? Well, what you do here is you take 16 squared plus 63 squared and you compare it to 65 squared. And if they are equal to each other, then it's a right triangle. If they're not equal to each other, then it's not a right triangle. So 16 squared is 256. 63 squared, that's a big one, 3969. And you're going to compare that to 65 squared, which is 4225. Alright, so if you go back to this 3969 and you add it to 256 and hit enter or equals, you get 4225. 4225. So a squared plus b squared in this case is equal to c squared. So that makes this a right triangle. The question, is it a right triangle? Yes. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Number 5, you're given a triangle has side lengths of 14, 48, and 49. Classify it as acute, obtuse, or right. So you're going to take 14 squared plus 48 squared, and you're going to compare it to 49 squared. So 196 plus 2304 so this left side is 2500. 49 squared is 2401. So in this problem, your a squared plus your b squared is greater than your c squared. So when you're classifying triangles, if a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, then what kind of triangle was it? Does anybody remember? It's acute. It's acute. It's an acute triangle. Number 6 is the same type problem, so I'm not going to do that one. You're going to take a squared plus b squared. You're going to compare it to c squared. If they are equal, it's a right triangle. If a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, it's an acute triangle. And if a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, it's an obtuse triangle. Number 7. In triangle ABC, angle A is a right angle, and angle B is 45 degrees. Find B to C. They're telling you that A to C is 14. If your answer is not an integer, leave it in simplest radical form. So the rule in your notes that on a 45, 45, 90 triangle, if you're given a leg and you need the hypotenuse, that you multiply by the square root of 2. So B to C is going to be 14 radical 2. That's your answer in radical form. If you multiply that, you're not going to get an integer. You're not going to get a whole number. So there's your answer. 14 times the square root of 2. Number 8 is another 45, 45, 90. And you're given the hypotenuse. And you're asked to find the length of a leg. If your answer is not an integer, leave it in simplest radical form. So this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and you're trying to find either of these two sides. So in your notes yesterday, I told you that if you're given the hypotenuse, to divide it by the square root of 2, and it'll give you the length of the leg. So if you take 10 and divide it by the square root of 2, you're going to get a decimal. And what is that? 10 divided by 7.07. If you remember anything about radicals, if you take 10 and divide it by the square root of 2, that means you're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 2. So in the numerator, you have 10 radical 2. And in the denominator, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is equal to 2. And then the 10 divided by 2 becomes a 5 square root of 2. So here's your answer in simplest radical form, and here's your answer in decimal form. If you multiply 5 times the square root of 2, you're going to get 7.07 as well. Number 9 is another 45, 45, 90. This left side is 7, the right side is y. This is a 45-degree angle. And this horizontal piece is x. So we said yesterday that if you got a right triangle and one angle is 45 degrees, the other angle is 45 degrees. If the two angles are the same, then the two sides are the same. So in this case, y is equal to 7. If you know a leg in a 45, 45, 90, you can multiply it by the square root of 2 to find the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is going to be 7 times the square root of 2. Number 10. Find the value of the variable. If your answer's not an integer, leave it in simplest radical form. So you're going to take 13 and you're going to divide it by the square root of 2. So 13 divided by square root of 2 means to rationalize the denominator. In the numerator, you get 13 radical 2, and the denominator, square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is equal to 2. So you could see this as your simplest radical form, or you could see this. 13 over 2 is 6.5 square root of 2. Or in this case, if you got to convert, that is 13 divided by the square root of 2, 9.19. All three of these answers are the same. Number 11 says that the area of a square garden is 50 meters squared. So you've got a square garden. The area equals 50. All right, if the area is 50, the area of a square is equal to a side squared. So if the area equals 50 and the area equals a side squared, then one of the sides squared, s squared, is equal to 50. So if you find the square root of each side, then one of the sides is equal to square root of 50 is equal to 5 times the square root of 2. So this side is 5 square root of 2. This side is 5 square root of 2. This is a 90-degree angle because the shape is a square. The question is, how long is the diagonal? Well, this is the diagonal. So if you take a square that has 4 90-degree angles in it, and you cut it in half, then these are 45-degree angles. And the picture that you end up getting is a 45, 45, 90 right triangle, and you figured out what one of the legs was. If you know the length of a leg, you can multiply it by the square root of 2, and it will give you the length of the hypotenuse. So if you take 5 square root of 2 and you multiply it by the square root of 2, you're going to get 5 times the square root of 4. And the square root of 4 is 2, and 2 times 5 is equal to 10. So the length of this hypotenuse is 10. Number 12. Quilt squares are cut on the diagonal to form triangular quilt pieces. Squares are cut on the diagonal. Same type problem. It's a square cut in half. So it's a 45, 45, 90. The hypotenuse is 8. What is the side length of each piece? Take 8, divide it by square root of 2, which means to multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. In the numerator, you get 8 times square root of 2. And in the denominator, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is equal to 2. So this simplifies to 4 radical 2. There's your length of the side. Number 13. The length of the hypotenuse of a 30, 60, 90 is 14. So here's your 30-degree angle. Hypotenuse is 14. Find the perimeter. Okay, you got to find the perimeter of this triangle. It's a 30, 60, 90. So we said yesterday that the hypotenuse is twice as long as the short leg. So 14 divided by 2 equals 7. So your short leg is equal to 7. The short leg times the square root of 3 gives you the long leg. So those are your 3 lengths of the sides of this triangle. So the perimeter is going to be equal to 7 plus 14 plus 7 square root of 3, which equals 21 plus 7 square root of 3. In number 14, it's another 30, 60, 90. This is 60. And this won't happen tomorrow, but the numbers in these 2 consecutive problems are exactly the same. This is a 30, 60, 90. This hypotenuse is 14, so half the hypotenuse is 7. They're asking for the long leg. So in this case, you take the long leg times the square root of 3. So this is equal to 7 square root of 3. Number 15. Find the value of the variables. If your answer is not an integer, leave it in simplest radical form. Alright, so this 10 side right here, it's opposite of the 30-degree angle. So it's the short side. Short side times 2 equals the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse here equals 20. Short side times the square root of 3 equals the long side. So this long side of this triangle is going to be 10 times the square root of 3. Does anybody have any questions?